This one I think is going to be juicy. Looking at the running back position, we all know Austin Ekeler's RB1. We've heard Austin Ekeler kind of clamor for someone to come in and kind of help him and not give him a breath, but actually come and take reps from him as RB2. We know about kind of the history of it in past years of that not happening, i.e. look at Rountree, Justin Jackson can't stay healthy, look at Joshua Kelley. Like it's just been hard for Ekeler to get any sort of consistency behind him. Now you've got guys, Isaiah Spiller's here, Justin Jackson's still a free agent, by the way. Leddie Brown's here, Zander Horvath's here. There's a bunch of guys kind of in that group. I think we know RB1 and 2, I think, Isaiah Spiller and Austin Ekeler. Who would you say is going to be RB3, and will there be RB4?
There shouldn't be 4 running backs on the roster. There just shouldn't be. And you tried this previously last year. Austin Ekeler, Justin Jackson, Joshua Kelley, and Larry Rountree. But again, I go back to when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. When you really think as far as the RB3 position, how much were those guys actually contributing? Unfortunately, they both had their ups and downs. They both had their inconsistencies last year where you were hoping for a little bit more. Each one of them had flashes, but very brief. And so this training camp battle, again, this is proven now from what the Chargers did in the draft, going out and getting a guy like Isaiah Spiller that can come in and complement Austin Ekeler for what he does. Dan, you had mentioned it. The challenge has essentially been thrown out there. Austin Ekeler says, come get me, guys. I want you guys to have that same type of mentality that I had when I was an undrafted free agent. So now you start to look at the rest of the guys that are really in the camp battles. Obviously, Josh Kelley and Larry Rountree being at the top of that, being that they have had the most experience with this system thus far. And then you look at the other guys, some of the new faces of this running back unit, a Leddie Brown, a Kevin Marks. Who's going to step up out of those guys? Are they going to be able to make noise during the preseason? I don't know. And Dan, I will throw this out there because I've seen this conversation being had over the last week and a half. Would Justin Jackson returning to this team be such a bad thing as an RB3?
In short, hell no, it wouldn't be.
But okay, now the quick retort is, will it happen?
If he does, honestly, okay, so this is where it gets into something fun. To answer the question, will Justin Jackson be back on the team? If he does not get picked up by another team, I do think Justin Jackson will be back, and I have him making the 53-man roster.
So you're saying that if the Chargers sign him, he makes the 53. I would think that if they were to go out and make a move like that, 100%. I don't think it would be a bad option either. Even when he was healthy, I think that he was a good complement to Austin Ekeler. But if you were to have a 3-headed running back room look like Austin Ekeler, Isaiah Spiller, and Justin Jackson, there's a lot of versatility there. You look at what the running back room looks like now between Joshua Kelley, Larry Rountree. The differences in what they bring to the table is not that much when you just compare them player for player. Kevin Marks and Leddie Brown really haven't seen that much of yet. You can go back to their college film and try to pick apart their differences. Dan, I know that you're a fan of, was it Leddie Brown that you were a fan of, or was it Kevin Marks?
Leddie Brown.
So it'd be interesting to see how that training camp battle plays out. But this is going to be competitive. And when you think about an RB3 in those type of situations where you want them to bring in, you need that versatility. I don't think that any of these guys should be taking away snaps from Austin Ekeler if it's indeed going to be a passing down, especially if it's on a 3rd down situation. But can you find a guy that can bring a little bit more versatility to this running back unit? Can you find a guy who's going to be able to be consistent in contributing to this running game? There's a lot of question marks here when you get beyond Isaiah Spiller.
There are, and I think it's important when you kind of get into this, and we kind of mentioned it before, when it gets down to like RB3, RB4, or fullback, what do you want to talk about? It's not just about like how well they run the rock. Like I think this is where it kind of bleeds into like how good are they at pass protection, or how good are they, or how much will they provide value in special teams. And so, for example, like Joshua Kelley, he's a pretty good pass blocker. Like that, coaches have talked about that. Justin Jackson is a pretty darn good special teamer when he's out there. And so when you look at kind of the battle for me, I do think that there's going to be 4 running backs plus a fullback on this team when it comes to 53-man roster. But that's because of the special teams influence, in my opinion. So
that's fair.
In my eyes, I see Ekeler, Spiller as your 1-2. And then like RB 3-4 for those camp battle, I think that's going to be bloodbath. Because in that position, you've got, who are currently on the team, Kevin Marks, Joshua Kelley, Larry Rountree, and Leddie Brown. That's 4 guys vying for 2 spots, not including Justin Jackson, who's not there. And that's not including any of the fullbacks. So that wouldn't be a Gabe Nabers or a Zander Horvath. So you've got arguably, 6 guys vying for 2 spots, if there's only 4. I think there's going to be 5 total, including a fullback. But that's going to be where you're going to see some names that you don't want to see leave. No matter what happens, some of these guys are going to go. Like 4 of these following guys are not going to be on this team. Gabe Nabers, Larry Rountree, Joshua Kelley, Kevin Marks, Zander Horvath, Leddie Brown. 4 of those guys who you like are not going to be there.
See, my prediction would be that I would keep it at 3 and then include the fullback in there. Now, I agree with you. Do I think that that's what's going to happen, that that's what the team will decide? Unfortunately not. If it were me, I'd be going with 3 running backs. And the reason that I say that is because I think that the talent of Isaiah Spiller definitely closes that gap of the uncertainty that you have behind Austin Ekeler, to where you don't need to have an additional 4th running back as part of that roster. I think you can succeed with a talent like Austin Ekeler, Isaiah Spiller, and whoever your 3rd guy ends up being. So I think that there would be enough talent that you'd be able to get out of that, and then obviously have your fullback to supplant that. But if it was me, in terms of where I'm spreading it, where I feel that the roster needs more value, more depth in certain places, that's how I would shave it down. But like you, Dan, when we come cut off time, based on what the roster is right now, yeah, it'll probably end up being 4.